We need to become mindfully aware of the things that we tell ourselves. That self-talk you do in the mirror, that's the one. And then we have some work to do. Hi, thank you so much for finding me once again. Welcome back to Thrive Out Loud, where we take intentional steps to doing just that. Did you know that the stories we tell ourselves are what define and limit us? Did you know that you single-handedly have the power to decide who and what you are, who and what you're not, what it is that you're capable of, how far you can go? There's a topic that has been weighing a bit heavy on my shoulders, weighing a bit heavy on my soul, and that is about healing. So I titled today's video The Permission to Heal, granting ourselves the permission to heal from our emotional trauma and granting ourselves the permission to heal from past traumas and emotional wounds. Did you know that the stories you and I tell ourselves are what define who and what we are? Did you know that those very stories, that self-talk you do in the mirror, is what defines your limitations and how far you're willing to go? Did you know that you single-handedly have the power to define who and what you are, what it is that you're capable of, what you can and cannot do, and how far you're willing to go? We need to become very mindful about how we talk to ourselves, how we speak to our inner self. Before getting into the main topic, I'd like to give a few pointers that I've picked up on my journey to healing. I figured maybe let me share. You never know who might need to hear it. First, no one is perfect. I don't think life was designed to be perfect. I don't think I was designed to be perfect, and neither were you. Everyone has a story. Literally, everyone you come across, everyone you see, everyone you wave hello to has a story to tell, thing they've come out of. Everyone has something they're going into. Literally, everyone has a story. I once had a quote that said, "The wound is where the light enters your body." You have gone through certain things for a reason. There are lessons you've learned from your experiences, whether traumatic or not. Number 2, no judgment. There's absolutely no need for judgment, whether towards yourself or towards the next person. No pain is greater than another pain. Just because someone didn't go through exactly what you went through does not invalidate their pain. There's no need to put pain on levels and start judging based off of our experiences. Pain is pain, and it's valid for every. Last point, this permission to heal that I speak of comes more from within than from outside. You need to grant yourself that permission to heal. It all begins with you taking that intentional step to healing. It all begins with you deciding that you need to heal. It begins with you taking an intentional decision, making a choice. So while doing my research, I managed to sum up about 6 different steps, 6 different intentional steps that we can take on our journey to healing. Awareness is defined as the state of being conscious about something, knowing, feeling, being aware of something. Did you know there are a lot of people that walk amongst us completely unaware of their traumas and wounds? Did you know there are people who are not aware of how their experiences have shaped them and how their experiences continue to shape and trigger them? When you think back to your childhood, is there anything that stands out? Is there anyone that stands out? Is there an event or a series of events, a person or a group of people that somehow stand out? That is what I'm trying to write home about, the awareness. Those people and those events don't stand out for nothing. Some people experience traumatic events when they were kids, when they were still children, and as a result, they cannot help but draw back to that. That is the only thing they can remember about their childhood because it was a traumatic experience. When I think back to my childhood, what quickly comes to mind is how my father was not part of the picture and how my mother was physically there but emotionally very upset. Growing up in my grandmother's house around my aunts and uncles and just being a happy child but feeling somehow left out. Void when someone comes up with a new story about how their daddy did this, did that, and I couldn't relate. Those are things that stand out when I think about my childhood. So I'm posing the question now to you to say, when thinking back to your childhood, is there a person or an event or anything from your childhood that that stands out or that pops up, because that awareness begins there, where you become aware of the series of events that have shaped you into who you are, and the series of events or people that have kind of shaped your opinion and your perspective of the world. There's a part where you need to be completely honest and vulnerable with yourself. Step number 2 is all about understanding. Understanding, being able to comprehend a situation, being able to unpack a situation, having good and sound judgment and insight about a situation. In this instance, we're talking about trying to understand what could have been the logical reason behind what happened, either to you or what was happening while you were a child or what was happening generally. Step 1, we've identified some events that kind of stood out. Now we're trying to understand what could have been the reason for that. In my case, it's me trying to understand what could have been the reason that led to my mother being a single mother. What could have been the reason to my father not being there? What could have been the reason for my mother's emotional unavailability? This step involves trying to have an unbiased view of the situation, trying to have an unbiased perspective of the situation, trying to see it from that other person's perspective, trying to see it through their eyes. What could have been the logical reason behind what happened? Also, in this step, remember that when you're going through a situation, it's very easy and normal to make assumptions as you go along the way. What assumptions did you make, either about yourself or the next person? What assumptions did you draw from the situation? Were they good assumptions or were they bad assumptions? In my case, I assumed my dad didn't want me. I assumed he was living his best life wherever he was and didn't even care where I was. That was an assumption I drew based off my observation of the situation. But it's with understanding, trying to find a logical reason why this happened. Maybe he didn't have the means to be part of my life. Maybe he didn't know how to at that point. All this step entails is trying to see it from the other person's perspective. And maybe my mother was too hurt by the situation to see how emotionally unavailable she was. Maybe she was projecting that frustration towards me unknowingly. But this is all about trying to see it from that other person's perspective, removing my feelings from the situation and trying to see it from a second or third pair of eyes. The next step is compassion for my parents. Only once I really truly understood what this means did I let go of the anger, the resentment, and all the feelings I had towards them and began to have compassion for them. Only then did I begin to, feel pity, feel sympathy for them, because I cannot imagine being a parent and choosing not to be emotionally available for your child. I cannot imagine being a parent and making a choice not to be there for your child in every single sense of the word. Compassion is basically having sympathy for the misfortune of others, or having sympathy for someone, just feeling for a person. I'm at a point now where I have to extend compassion to them so that I can have compassion for myself as well. I realized that all the time I spent carrying anger around, I was equally projecting it to myself, I was projecting it to the world. I thought I was just angry at my parents, but I was actually angry at the whole world and at myself for things that I can never even explain. Whatever happened was not my fault. If you had the opportunity today to sit down with your younger self, the person who was hurt, the person who was injustice, if you had a chance to sit down with him or her, what would you say to that person, to your younger self? 5-year-old you, it could be 10-year-old you, it could be 15-year-old you. What would you say to that person if you had a chance to literally sit next to them today? I sat down with 15-year-old Senu. I would tell her that she matters. I would tell her that her life is valid. I would tell her that life is worth living. Imagine the number of times I invalidated my own presence, my own opinion, my own thoughts, my own feelings, because I was here thinking, there is no way my opinion matters. There is no way my own parents are going to treat me this way, but a stranger could treat me any better. So I walked around with this cynical idea of love, of friendship. I was just, when you walk around expecting negativity, that's what you get. You walk around expecting hate. You walk around expecting people to abandon you, and that is exactly what you get. You end up self-sabotaging because all you know is being alone, and you think that is normal. But all of this stems from the lack of compassion, the anger I carried around towards my parents, and to the world, and directly at myself. I carried it for so long, and there are some things that you genuinely don't need to carry around with you. So if I had an opportunity to sit down with the younger me right now, I'd tell her that she matters. I'd validate her feelings, I'd validate her thoughts. I'd sit down and listen to her. I spent a lot of time completely alone, in silence, in solitude, and then people wondered why I preferred my own, because no one ever listened. You end up preferring your own presence because no one ever really truly listens. No one gives you the time of day. I was accused of being overly sensitive, but no one wanted to find out why. I was told about how you're so sensitive, people can't deal with you, but no one was interested in uncovering that. I feel like had I been given a voice, or at least an opportunity to use my voice at that point without any fear of judgment, I would have felt like I meant something, anything, just not nothing. Next step is a big one, and this is forgiveness. It means different things to different people, but generally it has to do with letting go of all the feelings you have harbored about a situation or a person or a thing, or all of those combined. Something happened, there are feelings it evoked in you. Forgiveness is the process of letting go of all of that, and it can't be easy, but holding on to all that anger, that resentment and bitterness hurts you more than the person who has hurt you. It burdens you more than the person who has hurt you. It's like a person emptied their luggage right after coming back from holiday and dumped all of that on you, and you're still carrying it. It takes understanding and compassion again to understand that a person hurts you because they are hurt. No normal human being walks around with the intention of just hurting people. I don't think normal people function that way, unless I'm wrong. But forgiveness is such a big part because it takes a lot of intentional effort on your part, and it's normally one-sided intentional effort. You have to be willing to forgive even if that person is not sorry. Can you imagine how hard that is? Forgiving a person that's not sorry, it feels like it's wrong. It feels wrong. It looks wrong because you think the person has to be punished, right? I used to think so too, but it would only end up hurting me more. It would only haunt me more, sitting around waiting for that person's demise. Child, lay down your load. I don't think you can go to school with that last number luggage, the one we take to OR Tambo. You are here, getting on a taxi every day. I don't think that's how it's meant to work. I think it would just do you good to let go of anything that doesn't serve you. Feel what you need to feel. Allow yourself to go through all the motions and all the feelings. But at the end of the day, whatever doesn't serve you should be left where it is, should be left behind in the past, should just be cast away from you, and just leave it. If it doesn't serve you, why are you still carrying it around? The next step is all about learning or unlearning. Another big one. Learning is all about joining the dots between what you knew then and what you know now. Literally finding the little connections between your old knowledge and your new knowledge. What did you know then versus now? Looking at your situation, your experiences, or whatever has happened. What has the situation taught you? Generally, about yourself, about the next person, about the world. What has the situation taught you? What have you learned from the situation? What hints have you picked up from the situation? It may not have been fun to learn it, but what have you learned? What did you have to unlearn? through this situation. In my case, that's when I was first introduced to the concept of present parenting, conscious parenting. I didn't get that when I was a child, and I made it my intention. When I am gifted with the opportunity of being someone else's mom, I will do the best I can to be present for that child. I will do bona 120% to make sure that I am a present parent and I parent the child consciously, taking into account that just because this person is a child doesn't mean they don't have a heart, and it doesn't mean they don't have feelings. It doesn't mean I'm right and they're wrong. It just means I was bestowed with the duty to guide them on the journey to finding who they are, not who makes me happy. I don't think we got the opportunity to birth our children so we can make them who we want them to be. I believe our sole duty is to guide them on their journey to finding themselves, because they're not our people, they're God's people. Who am I? So the step of learning and unlearning is basically what the situation taught you. It may have been through pain or through a traumatic experience, but lessons are lessons nonetheless. I don't think if I had had a different set of parents, I would have turned out to be the same person that I am today. I don't think I would have had the same message that I have to share, and I don't think I would see the world the way I see it today. I wouldn't appreciate the things that I appreciate today because I would have been shaped by a different experience. So in as much as it was very painful to grow up in a very dysfunctional type of way, but I'm grateful for what I went through because it made this. It resulted in this, and I love this. The last and final step is all about rewriting your story, but allowing love to be the author. Rewriting your story, wearing a new set of eyes, a new pair of eyes. Rewriting your story with a new pen, and that pen is called love. Now, this is where you go back to find the little traces of love in your story. This is where you go back and intentionally try to find the small little bits and pieces of love in your story. Ask yourself, where was the love in my story? As traumatic as it was, as painful as it was, where was the love in your story? The silver lining in your story, where was the light at the end of the tunnel? Where was the turning point of this painful experience? In my situation, I am eternally grateful to have had a grandmother who was present, and she is the love part that I see in my story. She was very present, she was very supportive. She saw me, felt me, heard me. She made me feel heard. She made me feel seen. She made me feel like she could feel what I was going through, and she could see, and she understood. She made me feel like I mattered. She made me feel like a human being who deserved a chance. That is the love part in my story, and that is what I hold on to dearly. That is the new pen I used to write my story. Out of all this trauma, not all was lost. I still had my grandmother. She parented me wonderfully, and that is the love that I hold on to. So when thinking about your story, where's the love in your story? Where's the rainbow in your story? Where's the silver lining, the light at the end of the tunnel? When thinking about my parents as a collective, I have compassion for them because I realized that they did the best they could at that time, or they did the best they knew how to do at that time. Maybe absence was what they knew. Maybe avoidance was what they knew. Maybe emotional unavailability was what they knew. Maybe they were so hurt that they couldn't see that they were projecting hurt onto their child in their many different ways. Maybe they were parenting me from a position of so much pain that they were unaware of the damage they were causing. But it's through compassion for them, understanding that they must have been hurt, to have passed on so much hurt. They had to have been hurt because it doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. But the step is again about rewriting the limiting beliefs that you had as a result of this situation. Whatever the situation had you believing about yourself, whatever the situation convinced you that you can and cannot do, whatever the situation allowed you to do or limited you from doing, whatever the situation shaped you into, this is the part where you allow love to rewrite those beliefs for you. For the longest time, I believed I wasn't lovable. I believed I wasn't deserving of any love. Firstly, because my mother had said it with her own mouth, but also, reading the room said, so I believed it, because if my mother had to have said it, then it must have been true. And that's a thing I carried around with me. I then had a very dysfunctional relationship with this idea of love. I walked around accepting just about anything, thinking it was love. Anything that was disguised as love, I took it because I thought I deserved the breadcrumbs. I didn't know I'm here on tiramisu level, and I was just here accepting noma yini boza yami because of the limiting beliefs. I was very insecure because I was never validated. I was never made to feel like I'm seen or that I mattered or that, my feelings were valid. I never felt any of that. I had zero self-esteem, and I thought it was normal. I thought it was normal to walk around doubting myself. I thought it was normal to walk around feeling withdrawn from the world. You walk out into public and you can see confident people. They don't need to tell you. You can see a confident person from a mile away. And I would wonder, what was wrong with these people? I didn't question what was wrong with me. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Thrive Out Loud. This was a rather touchy one, but like I said, we're here to unearth and explore the very topics we normally shy away from as people. I received so much love from my very first video. Again, if you haven't watched it, I will link it somewhere. Please continue to like, comment, share, subscribe, and tell a friend to tell her. You know what to do. Bye.